شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم صدق الله العظيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنا نحن نزلنا الذكر وإنا له لحافظون صدق الله العظيم. My dear brothers and sisters, in last session we discussed the subject matters of the Quran and the Makki and Madani verses and the surahs and what is the different, what is the style of them. We discussed those in details. Today would like to go over a little bit about what type of tafsir we have around us, and then most of the time there are tafsir can be in Arabic, and there are many tafsir, mashallah, translated into English nowadays. For example, like very famous Tafsir Ibn Kathir from Allama Ibn Kathir rahimahullah ta'ala. He wrote a tafsir. This is called Tafsir Ibn Kathir, and Tafsir Khazin, Tafsir Kabir. There are many tafasir. Tafsir Mazhari, Ruh al-Ma'ani, Tafsir Durr Manthur, Ahkam al-Quran lil-Jassas. There are many. Today, we have many tafasir available in English, and recent tafasir, like coming from Indo-Pak background. It's a very famous one, Ma'arif al-Quran, Tafhim al-Quran, Anwar al-Bayan, and just to name few. Otherwise there are many tafasir, and mashallah most of them now are available in English and you can read them. This is a very good tafasir. And before we start, I just want to say this. Because of this month of the Quran, we should be developing personal, active connection with the Quran. This is very important for each and every individual. And mashallah, if you are already connected with the Quran, we need to increase that connection in this particular month. And we like to introduce this concept to everyone, and we should understand what we are doing here every day for a few minutes. This is by no means the extensive tafsir or tafsir of the Quran, or neither a translation of the ayahs of the Quran, because the time limit we have, we cannot go over with this. Rather, it's very broad overview, or you can say the bird's eye view, inshallah. And what Quran is saying, especially in this particular chapter or in this particular juz, will go according to, inshallah, try to be, like by surah. It will be easier a little bit, In the beginning, surahs are long, but we may not be able to cover them all. But inshallah, I'll just try to give you some overview. When we start talking about the Quran, the first thing is the basic right of the Quran, to believe in the Quran and have faith in the Quran. When we say believe in the Quran, we believe this is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is called Kalamullah, the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the difference between Quran and the previous scriptures. Torah, Zabur, Injil. Those are considered the books of Allah, but not the Kalamullah. But Quran is the book of Allah and the Kalam of Allah as well. That's why we say this is Kalamullah. It came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam to Sayyidina Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this is the last book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it will remain unchanged till the day of judgment. No one can alter anything. No one can change its meaning. No one can change its explanation. And no one can change any single letter from it. Nor anyone can delete anything from it. Nor anyone can add anything to it. Why? Because Allah tabarak wa ta'ala has taken the responsibility to protect it. Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikr wa inna lahu lahafidhun. We are the protector, we are the guardian of this kitab, this book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From here we understand the tremendous difference between this Quran and the previous books. The previous books, that guardianship of those books were given to the ummah, the nations. Because of that, they could not protect those. But about the Quran, Allah tabarak wa ta'ala himself took the responsibility to protect it. And this will be protected till the day of judgment. Since we know this is the Kalamullah, this is obligation upon us. Whenever we try to engage with the Quran, try to recite the Quran, we have to do it at most respect, to show the respect, to show respect outwardly and inwardly, from your bottom of your heart, that you are about to start reading the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the control over. We are lucky, this ummah is lucky to have Quran with us. This is direct words from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And according to the riwayah, this is the best source to get connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of that, it becomes our responsibility to read Quran with utmost respect. And for this, number one, we have to be clean in the sense from major impurity, minor impurity as well. When you read Quran, we should recite Quran with wudu. Even though you can recite Quran without wudu as well, but when you need to touch Quran, when you need to hold the Quran in your hand, then we should have wudu. You start with wudu. And when we recite Quran, we always remember this is the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm reading. And we are reading only for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not any worldly gain, or not to impress anyone. Only to gain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember, concentrate fully when you read Quran. When you read Quran, concentrate fully means leave everything aside, or any other occupations. Just leave them aside. If you read Quran on your cell phone, there will be still distraction. If someone messages you, sometimes calls you, or something happens, like you will get distracted. So always best to have a mushaf and use that mushaf in your home, wherever you are, and keep a copy of, like a small copy of the Mus'haf in your car as well. It'll be easier to recite Quran. And preferably facing the Qibla. And when you read Quran, like Sayyidina, it comes about Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Masud radiallahu ta'ala, when he used to recite Quran, he used to sit on his knees, on his both knees in the Masjid al-Nabawi. Imagine, just to show respect that I'm reading the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He used to kneeling on both knees. That's the respect that Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Masud radiallahu ta'ala used to show. And obviously we need to observe humility, tranquility while reading the Quran. And this is one of the adab of the Quran. When we are reading the Quran, whatever Allah tabarak wa ta'ala mentioned, for example, when Allah tabarak wa ta'ala mentioned any promise in the ayah, we should ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, if Allah tabarak wa ta'ala has mentioned there is a Jannah for the good people, you ask, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make me among those who enter Jannah. Make me among the good people that I can enter into Jannah. If Allah tabarak wa ta'ala is mentioning any of His blessings, you ask, oh Allah, I am in need of this blessing, please provide me. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning in the Quran the verses talking about any wrath or any anger, or Allah tabarak wa ta'ala is angry, or Allah tabarak wa ta'ala discussing about the Qiyamah or the Jahannam, then you seek protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from Jahannam. From this timing. This is also a respect, and this is also one of the adab of the Quran. And we have to remember, when we read Quran, we should read in a beautiful voice as much as we can. Because it comes in a hadith, Zayyinul Qur'ana bi aswatikum, that you should beautify Quran through your voices, through your tone. Read the Quran in a beautiful tone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who recite Quran in beautiful tone. We should make a commitment to ourselves. We should not let any day pass without engaging with the Quran. This should be the basic commitment to each and every person. When we recite Quran, we should not disturb anyone. For example, if you are reading Quran in your bedroom and your wife is sleeping, or wife is reading, husband is sleeping, they should not be reading in a loud voice that may disturb others' sleep. In the same manner, when you are there in the house, if children are sleeping and you want to recite Quran, do it in a lower tone that you don't disturb people. And if you are in the masjid, if you are reading Quran, there are people who are praying, you cannot read Quran in a loud voice that disturb others. Because when you come to masjid, masjid is the place, it's primarily for the salah. Salah is the first thing. Because of that, any other activity other than salah, it become subsequently, or it's not the primary. That's why salah get the priority and Quran should be in a lower tone. And it is also one of the adabs of the Quran, while you are reciting, while you are reading the Quran, adhan starts. It is advisable that you stop your qira'ah and you answer to the muadzin's call, and then after that you continue your Quran. While we are reciting the Quran, you might see during the Tilawah, see Sajda Tilawah. Sajda Tilawah, on the side note you see footnote Sajda. That means when you recite this ayah, you perform the Sajda Tilawah. To perform Sajda Tilawah, what you do is basically you stand up and you say Allahu Akbar, and you go into the Sajda directly, and then you say Subhana Rabbil Ala, Subhana Rabbil Ala, Subhana Rabbil Ala 3 times, and then you say Takbir, Allahu Akbar, you raise, you get up, done. You do not have to raise your hand, and you don't have to have salam at the end. Nothing. You just stand up and say Allahu Akbar, go into sajda, say 3 times. This is minimum. And there are many du'as also mentioned about the sajda tilawat. Like Prophet ﷺ has mentioned in one of the hadith, سجد وجهي للذي خلقه وشق سمعه وبصره بحوله وقوته فتبارك الله أحسن الخالقين. And there is other dua, اللهم اكتب لي بها عندك أجرا وضع عني بها وزرا واجعلها لي عندك زخرا وتقبلها مني كما تقبلتها من عبدك سيدنا داود عليه الصلاة والسلام. There are other duas as well. This is also a time that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala accept our duas. Because of that, when you recite Quran and the Sajda Tilawat comes, you make Sajda and you make dua to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and then you get up. And remember, as many times as you repeat the same ayah in the same sitting, then you just have to do one Sajda at the end. But if you read different ayat Sajda, but in the same sitting, but different ayat Sajda, then you have to do different sajdas. But the same sitting, same ayah, doesn't matter how many times you repeat, at the end one sajda. But if you are reading one same ayah, but your sitting has changed, for example, you are reciting in one place, and then after that you get up from there and you went to the other place, from one couch to the other couch, or you're reading in living room and then you went to bedroom now, then you're reading the same ayah, and then from there you went to your library and you're reading the same ayah. Like even when the places change, then as many sajda becomes wajib upon you. So when it comes to ayatul sajda, you have to remember, either you recite the ayatul sajda or you hear it. You hear someone reciting it. In both cases, you have to perform the sajda. In both cases, you have to perform the sajda. There are people, sometimes, like we recite the Quran, but when the ayat to sajda come, we skip it just because we have to perform the sajda. We should not skip it. It looks very bad. We're supposed to recite the ayah. You have the choice here. If you don't want to do sajda tilawat right away, you can do sajda tilawat after you finish your recitation. After you finish your tilawah, you can do it. The same thing when you have ayat sajda while you're reading in salah. For example, like you are reciting Surah Alaq, or you're reciting some surah that you know, and there is ayat sajda. In this case, you just go to sajda directly during the salah. If you do not perform sajda during the salah, or the alternate of the sajda, which is the alternate sajda? The alternate of the sajda tilawat during the salah is, while you're reciting, you reach the ayatul sajda, you go into ruku right then you don't have to do extra sajda. You go into ruku right then. After you finish sajda tilawat, you went into ruku. This should suffice you. You don't have to do extra sajda. So this way, if you don't do this, or you did not do the one extra sajda during the salah, then you cannot repeat it after salah. This is a little bit tricky here. And memorization of the Quran, it has a lot of virtues. It cannot come into count, like there's so many virtues of memorizing of the Quran, regarding which Prophet ﷺ has mentioned in one of the hadith. It says, Man qara al-Quran. But Mufassirin, the Muhaddithin, they have explained, Man qara al-Quran, in reality, Man hafidha, means who memorized it, who memorized this Quran. This one, inshallah, as I have mentioned, this is not extensive tafsir. We're just going overview regarding this. Inshallah, we'll start the Quran. About the Quran, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has mentioned, فَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. Allah Ta'ala has mentioned, whenever you start reciting the Quran, you start with Audhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. فَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنِ, when you recite Quran, فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ, seek protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the accursed, the shaitan. Because of this, the ulama, they mention we should do it, and this is sunnah, and it is consensus on this, that ulama say yes, you have to do it. And either you recite the Quran during the salah or outside the salah. In both cases, you recite A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. And remember this, one more thing. When we do other stuff, for example, like you're starting to read a seerah book or any hadith book or something like that, you don't recite A'udhu billah there. A'udhu billah is only exclusively for the Quran. For other thing, for other books, for any other material and the thing you're reading, for that this is Bismillah. The ta'awudh is only for the Quran. And when we are starting Quran, then you say A'udhu billah and Bismillah both. And sometimes you see, when we are reciting Quran, during recitation of the Quran, we finish one surah and we want to continue and start the other surah. In this case, you just recite Bismillah in between. You do not repeat A'udhu billah. You just say Bismillah. Except one surah in the Quran, Surah Bara'ah or Surah Tawbah. If you are reading from reading Surah Anfal and you finish Surah Anfal, you want to continue with Surah Tawbah, you do not recite Bismillah in this one particular surah. Regarding there's a Basmala, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, we all know this is this part of this surah, ayah of the Quran in Surah Naml. And according to many scholars, this is separate ayah between two surahs. Because of that, they say Bismillah is considered as an ayah of the Quran. We have to be very careful how we use it. Like you should avoid touching it without wudu, and you should do as much as you can without. You should not touch it without wudu. And this is, we should remember, the Bismillah should be recited anytime you do anything. For example, like Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has mentioned, كل أمر ذي بال لم يبدأ فيه ببسم الله فهو أقطع فهو أبتر. Anything started with like without Bismillah, it is aqta, means it's cut off from the barakah. It's cut off from the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of that, you say A'udhu billah and Bismillah both. And when we start the salah, in our salah, A'udhu billah and Bismillah, both of them are masnoon. And after first rakat, second and third rakat, like other rakats, we should recite Bismillah. All the Imam agree on that. And according to some riwayah, it is wajib to start every rakah with Bismillah. And when you start salah, after you finish Surah Fatiha, before you start other surah, you do not recite Surah Bismillah, because it is not proven from Prophet ﷺ and the Khulafa Rashidin. But some Imam, they prefer, they say you can start with the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim as well. Allahu Akbar Kabira. And always when we start with the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, people of Jahiliyyah, they also take their names of their God. That's how they used to start. But Allah Ta'ala replaced it with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Like I just said, every matter or everything, every action should start with Bismillah. Anything we do, we should start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. If you look at the Bismillah, it has, tremendous barakah in it. If somebody get used to of saying Bismillah in everything, that in itself becomes ibadah. For example, like you say Bismillah before you start eating, that becomes ibadah while you're eating. And you say Bismillah when you're leaving home till you come back, the whole time basically is considered as ibadah. And when you go to bed, you say Allahumma Bismika Amutu wa Ahya. Again, the Bismika Amutu wa Ahya. This is the dua. Start with the Bismillah, and this the whole night consider as ibadah. Like it's a beautiful nuskha, we can say the beautiful tip to make everything ibadah. Just start with Bismillah. And in this regard, we got to be mindful. Say Bismillah a little bit louder, that people around you, they also can hear it, and they also can do it. They get reminded, basically. That's how it should be. And Allah Ta'ala, imagine, say Bismillah. First of all, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's name is there, Allah, and then Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Most merciful, most beneficent. Like when you look at this Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, these two names of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, these two attributes of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala are so powerful. Because of that, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala made us repeat after every surah. Every time, how many times we repeat Allah Ta'ala's name, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And in Surah Fatiha also it starts, with this Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, right after, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Because of that, we should remember there are a lot of tremendous benefits, and also mention so many virtues of Bismillah in itself as well. Can't go into that detail, but inshallah, we want to start with Surah Fatiha. And as I see, I think looks like we are done with our time here. And inshallah, from tomorrow, we'll start from Surah Fatiha. Briefly, I'll mention about Surah Fatiha, because Surah Fatiha is very important surah, even though we don't pay much attention to it. That's why we'll go a little bit, about what the message this surah contains, and what is the basic teachings in that surah. And then after that, inshallah, from Surah Baqarah, we'll just skim through some basic points here and there, inshallah. I ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala give us tawfiq, that we can understand Quran properly, and we can recite Quran properly, and then we can act upon it, and then we propagate the message of the Quran. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum.